When you stand alone, you are forced to confront the vast expanse of your own inner world. There is no one to rely on but yourself, and this is where the magic happens. It's easy to lean on others, to defer decisions, to let external circumstances guide your direction. But in doing so, you weaken the very core of your being. The truth is, we are all capable of far more than we realize, and the act of standing alone is the invitation to unlock that latent power. Self-reliance is not about isolation or detachment. It's about rediscovering the strength that has always existed within you. When the world is stripped away, when the noise of others' voices falls silent, you are left with one undeniable truth: you are your own guide. You are not helpless, nor are you bound by the limitations you may have imposed upon yourself. You are a force of nature, just as the waves are not reliant on the shore to exist. They move with purpose, powered by their own rhythm, and in the same way you too can navigate the currents of life, drawing strength from within rather than seeking it from outside. It is in solitude that you cultivate your deepest wisdom. Without the distractions of others' expectations, you learn to trust your intuition, that subtle knowing that speaks from a deeper place within you. It may be a quiet whisper, but it is the voice of experience, of your inner wisdom that has always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. The more you walk this path alone, the more you come to understand that the true power lies not in the world around you, but in the way you respond to it. In this solitude, you will discover that the strength to face life's challenges, to take risks, and to act decisively comes from the recognition that you are enough. You are not waiting for someone to grant you permission to live your life. The authority you seek is already within you. The more you trust yourself, the more you realize that you are capable of navigating any storm, climbing any mountain, and forging ahead when the road seems uncertain. To be self-reliant is to recognize that you are whole. You are not incomplete because you walk alone. You are complete in your own right. You need nothing external to validate your existence. Your strength comes from the certainty that you have everything within you to create the life you desire. And that, perhaps, is the most profound realization of all. You are not just surviving, you are thriving, simply by embracing the truth of who you are. When we are constantly surrounded by others, we lose touch with the quiet pulse of our own thoughts. The world fills our ears with its constant chatter, opinions, judgments, distractions, and in this noise we can forget the sound of our own voice. Solitude, however, offers a sanctuary for clarity. It is in these moments of aloneness that we begin to hear the deepest truth within us, a truth that has always been there, but was always often drowned out by the endless external stimuli. In stillness, the mind becomes a mirror, reflecting not what others have placed in it, but what has always existed beneath the surface. We begin to hear the soft whispers of our own desires, the quiet voice of intuition that often gets overlooked in the hustle of daily life. This is not some grand, loud revelation, but a subtle knowing that arises when the distractions fall away. And this knowing, though it may be faint at first, holds the wisdom of your entire being. It knows the way forward, even when the path is unclear, for it is the essence of who you truly are. Without the influence of others, we rediscover the beauty of making decisions from the center of our own being, rather than from a place of external expectation or fear. Solitude does not simply give us time to think, it allows us to think without interference. It offers the space to reflect, to discern, and to make choices that align with the deepest parts of ourselves. In this space we reconnect with the natural rhythm of life, one that moves in harmony with our own heartbeats, rather than to the erratic tempo set by the outside world. When we are truly alone, the mind opens up to what is real, not what is projected onto us. We stop asking for permission from others to follow our own path, and instead we begin to trust in our ability to find our way. The confusion and uncertainty we often feel dissolve in the silence, not because we have all the answers, but because we've learned to ask the right questions, the ones that come from within. In this quiet we reclaim our sovereignty. We no longer seek guidance from the crowd, because we recognize that the wisdom of the crowd is, in fact, just a reflection of what we already know. The power to navigate the journey is ours, and the more we embrace this solitude, the clearer the path becomes. The world may be loud, but the voice within is steady, ever present, and infinitely more reliable. When we are constantly surrounded by others, we lose touch with the quiet pulse of our own thoughts. The world fills our ears with its constant chatter, opinions, judgments, distractions, and in this noise we can forget the sound of our own voice. Solitude, however, offers a sanctuary for clarity. It is in these moments of aloneness that we begin to hear the deepest truth within us, a truth that has always been there, but was often drowned out by the endless external stimuli. In stillness, the mind becomes a mirror, reflecting not what others have placed in it, but what has always existed beneath the surface. We begin to hear the soft whispers of our own desires, the quiet voice of intuition that often gets overlooked in the hustle of daily life. This is not some grand, loud revelation, but a subtle knowing that arises when the distractions fall away. And this knowing, though it may be faint at first, holds the wisdom of your entire being. It knows the way forward, even when the path is unclear, for it is the essence of who you truly are. Without the influence of others, we rediscover the beauty of making decisions from the center of our own being, rather than from a place of external expectation or fear. Solitude does not simply give us time to think, it allows us to think without interference. It offers the space to reflect, to discern, and to make choices that align with the deepest parts of ourselves. In this space, we reconnect with the natural rhythm of life, one that moves in harmony with our own heartbeats, rather than to the erratic tempo set by the outside world. When we are truly alone, the mind opens up to what is real, not what is projected onto us. We stop asking for permission from others to follow our own path, and instead we begin to trust in our ability to find our way. The confusion and uncertainty we often feel dissolve in the silence, not because we have all the answers, but because we've learned to ask the right questions, the ones that come from within. In this quiet, we reclaim our sovereignty. We no longer seek guidance from the crowd because we recognize that the wisdom of the crowd is, in fact, just a reflection of what we already know. The power to navigate the journey is ours, and the more we embrace this solitude, the clearer the path becomes. The world may be loud, but the voice within is steady, ever present, and infinitely more reliable. The crowd, with all its noise and opinions, often serves as a mirage, a projection of collective thoughts, expectations, and fears. But the truth is, the crowd can never lead. It can only follow. It follows trends. It follows the loudest voices. It follows what is safe, what is familiar. The crowd is never in search of innovation, only comfort in numbers. It is in the silence, in the spaces between the voices, that the true leaders emerge, those who are willing to venture into unknown territories where the crowd has not yet stepped. When you seek approval from others, you are not truly living your life, you are living their version of it. You are following their path, echoing their doubts and dreams, and in doing so you lose touch with the unique spark that exists only within you. The world is full of people trying to fit into the molds created by others, and while there's comfort in conformity, there's little room for greatness. You cannot be extraordinary by living within the confines of the crowd. The extraordinary is always forged in the fire of individuality, where one dares to stand apart, to think differently, and to act from the center of their own being. True leadership does not come from following others, but from creating something new. It arises from the willingness to stand alone in the face of uncertainty, to be the first to venture down a path that no one else dares to walk. It's in this very act of going it alone that we discover our deepest strength, for only when we step away from the crowd do we realize the vastness of our own potential. The crowd is too concerned with what is accepted, what is conventional, but those who lead know that it is the unconventional that changes the world. The crowd will never create the future, it will only react to it. It is those who go against the grain, who dare to question the status quo, who carve their own way, that give shape to what is yet to be. They are the ones who look at the world and say, this is not enough, there is something more, and in that statement they embody the essence of leadership, not by telling others what to do, but by showing them what is possible when you trust your own voice over the noise of the crowd. When you choose to walk alone, you are not abandoning others, you are simply refusing to let them decide your path for you. You are saying, I will not be limited by the boundaries set by others. And it is in this choice, in this courageous decision to lead yourself, that you begin to create the life you truly desire. You stop following the crowd and start leading, not by force, but by the simple act of trusting your own direction. And in doing so, you show the world that to lead is not to dominate, but to follow the call of your own soul, regardless of the direction everyone else is going. The fear of judgment is a cage that holds far too many people captive. It is not the fear of failure that paralyzes them, but the fear of what others might think if they fail. This constant preoccupation with others' opinions creates a life where every action is filtered through the lens of approval. We live for the external applause, the nods of approval, the recognition that we are doing things the right way according to someone else's standards. But here lies the paradox. By seeking approval from others, we lose touch with the very essence of our own being. We stop asking, what do I truly want? And start asking, what will they think of me if I do this? It's a subtle trap, this desire for validation, and it keeps us on a path of conformity. We start making decisions based not on our inner compass, but on the reflection of ourselves in the eyes of others. In doing so, we place our worth in the hands of others, strangers, who may not even understand our dreams or our desires. We build our lives based on someone else's idea of success, and in the process, we abandon the unique, authentic version of ourselves. The more we chase external validation, the more we disconnect from our true selves. But when you free yourself from the fear of judgment, you free yourself from the shackles of the crowd. You stop living for the expectations of others and start living for your own truth. The beauty of living without the weight of judgment is that you create from a place of pure authenticity. You make choices that align with your deepest desires, not with the image you think you need to project to the world. There is freedom in this. It is a freedom that can only be felt when you stop pretending to be someone you are not. Judgment is a reflection of the fears and insecurities of others. When you live in fear of what others think, you allow their doubts to become your own. But these fears are not yours. They belong to the ones who have not yet found the courage to walk their own path. They are projections of their own limitations, their own unfulfilled desires, and they have no place in your journey. The moment you decide to step away from the fear of judgment, you take back control of your life. You realize that what others think of you is none of your business. It's their perception, not your reality. The greatest freedom comes when you no longer seek permission to be who you truly are. You stop asking for approval because you know that you are enough, just as you are. In that moment, you realize that the only opinion that truly matters is your own. When you stop fearing judgment, you reclaim your power. You begin to create, to act, and to live from a place of inner truth. And in doing so, you become the fullest expression of yourself. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. It is not the certainty of success, but the deep trust in your ability to figure things out as you go. Many people mistake courage for confidence, as though it's about knowing the exact steps ahead, about being sure of every move you make. But true courage is not knowing the outcome. It is the willingness to face the unknown with an open heart. It is the decision to act, even when the path is shrouded in uncertainty. Life, at its core, is unpredictable. No matter how carefully we plan or prepare, the future remains an enigma, one that cannot be neatly mapped out. Yet most people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment, for the conditions to be right, for the guarantee of success before they take a step. But what they fail to realize is that the perfect moment never comes. It is in the act of stepping forward, not knowing what will happen next, that you begin to create the path. Courage does not come from having all the answers. It comes from the willingness to trust that the answers will reveal themselves as you walk. The true essence of courage is rooted in vulnerability. To be courageous is to accept that you don't have control over everything. It's to admit that you might fail, that things might not go according to plan, but that you are willing to face the consequences of your actions regardless. It is in this openness, this willingness to embrace what is beyond your control, that courage is born. It is not a forceful, rigid energy, but a soft, persistent trust in your ability to navigate the world, no matter how it unfolds. And this trust, this courage, is not something you acquire from outside yourself. It is something that emerges from within when you stop waiting for external validation or approval. It is when you realize that, despite all the unknowns, you are enough to handle whatever comes your way. Courage is the recognition that you are capable of dealing with life, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust yourself to find them. You trust your ability to adapt, to learn, to grow, and to overcome, even when the future seems unclear. In choosing to act despite uncertainty, you begin to discover a profound freedom. The fear of failure begins to fade, not because you are immune to it, but because you realize that failure is not the end. It is simply a part of the journey, a necessary teacher that guides you toward growth. The more you step into the unknown, the more you realize that courage is not about avoiding fear, but about using it as a fuel to propel you forward. When you trust yourself enough to face what lies ahead, the fear becomes an ally, not an obstacle. Courage is the quiet voice inside you that says, even though I don't know what's next, I will move forward anyway. It is the recognition that life's greatest rewards come not from avoiding the unknown, but from embracing it with the full understanding that you have the strength within you to navigate it, no matter what. You are not incomplete, not missing anything essential. The world may try to convince you otherwise, telling you that you need more skills, more validation, more resources to be worthy, to be whole. But the truth is, you are already enough. Everything you need to embark on your journey is within you, waiting to be recognized and brought into action. The idea that you must seek something outside of yourself to fulfill you is a trap, a belief that holds you back from seeing your own power. It is in the very moment you realize that you are enough that the world around you begins to shift. This belief in your own sufficiency doesn't come from arrogance, nor does it suggest that you have all the answers. It's not about being perfect or knowing everything ahead of time. It's about the deep understanding that you have everything you need to take the next step. And the next. The world will try to tell you that you must have all the right pieces to the puzzle before you can begin, but life is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a journey to be experienced. And you are already equipped to begin that journey just as you are. To realize that you are enough is to stop looking outward for validation, for permission, for approval. When you look to others to tell you who you are or what you should be, you relinquish your own authority. The moment you trust in your inherent worth, you stop waiting for external signals to guide you. You understand that the power to move forward, to take risks, and to create is rooted within you. You don't need someone else's approval to decide who you are or what you can do. This realization doesn't mean you never seek guidance or that you reject help when it comes. It means that you understand that no one can define you but you. The wisdom, the vision, the strength, it is all yours. The more you embrace this truth, the more you align with the flow of life, trusting that the next steps will become clear, not because the world has told you, but because you know deep inside that you are capable of making them clear. You are not waiting for the world to tell you that you are ready, because you already know that you are. When you trust in your own sufficiency, you stop seeing yourself as lacking. You stop seeing obstacles as insurmountable and challenges as reasons to hold back. Instead, you see them as opportunities to expand, to grow, and to realize even more of your potential. The idea that you need something outside of yourself to make you whole is the greatest illusion, for you are whole already. Once you accept this, life becomes less about striving for approval and more about expressing what is already inside. The world may present obstacles, but you no longer approach them with fear or hesitation, because you know that you are more than capable of meeting them. You stop questioning your worth and start acting from a place of certainty, trusting that everything you need to move forward will unfold as you walk the path. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for a sign. You are already enough to take the first step. Every step after that in solitude, there is an unfolding of the self that cannot happen in the presence of others. The mind, free from the distractions and expectations imposed by the world, begins to dance with its own thoughts, ideas, and possibilities. It is in these quiet moments, away from the noise, that the seeds of creativity are planted and begin to sprout. When you are alone, you are not bound by the limitations of external opinions or societal conventions. You are free to explore, to create, to invent without the weight of judgment hanging over you. Most of us are trained to think that creativity is something that comes from an external source, a mentor, a trend, a rule book. But creativity is not something that needs to be found, it is something that needs to be released. It exists within us, a wellspring waiting to flow. When you are alone, you allow yourself the space to tap into this natural flow of ideas and inspiration. You are no longer constrained by what others expect you to create, but instead you begin to shape your own unique expression. You become the artist of your own experience, unconcerned with whether others will understand or appreciate your work. Solitude removes the distractions that prevent you from listening to the deeper parts of yourself. It is in this listening that you begin to hear ideas that have always been there, buried beneath the surface. These ideas are not new, they are ancient, waiting for you to uncover them. And it is only in the quiet, in the absence of external influence, that they can rise to the surface and take shape. In solitude, the mind becomes more attuned to the subtleties of the world, to the quiet inspiration that is all around us, but often drowned out by the noise of everyday life. Creativity thrives when we allow it to emerge naturally, without force, without pressure. When you are alone, there is no rush, no urgency to create something for others. You are free to simply explore, to play with ideas, to allow them to evolve and grow. It is in this process of exploration that true innovation occurs. When you are not constrained by the expectations of others, your imagination is unbounded, your thinking becomes fluid, and you see possibility where others see limitations. This freedom to create is not just a luxury, it is essential for personal growth. Solitude allows you to align with your deepest desires and passions, and from that alignment comes the power to manifest your ideas into the world. The more you embrace the solitude, the more you allow your creativity to flow freely. You begin to see that the greatest works, the most profound expressions, arise not from the pressure to perform or meet external standards, but from the freedom to simply be. In the quiet of solitude, you discover the vastness of your own imagination. You realize that you do not need anyone else's approval to create, to express, or to share. The act of creation itself becomes its own reward, and in that you begin to understand that creativity is not about what you produce, but about the joy of allowing yourself to simply be. When you give yourself the space to be alone, you free your mind to explore the infinite possibilities that exist within you. And it is from this place of freedom that the most extraordinary ideas are born.